the moment the doorbell rang. The air in our living room thickened with a silence that felt like it could shatter glass. I stood by the window watching the new neighbor's car pull into their driveway, my heart buoyant with the kind of naive excitement you get when you think you're building something new. "They seem nice," I called out to Emily, my wife of 7 years, who was fussing with a tray of appetizers in the kitchen. No response. Odd, but I brushed it off. Then the doorbell rang and Emily's face drained of color, her hands trembling as she set down a plate of bruschetta. That was the moment I knew something was terribly wrong. I'm Tom, a high school history teacher with a penchant for routine and a marriage I thought was built on unshakable trust. Emily and I had weathered storms, job losses, her mother's illness, the miscarriage that left us both hollow for months. We'd always come through hand in hand stronger. Or so I believed. The new neighbors, a couple named Mark and Lisa, had moved in across the street a week ago. I'd suggested inviting them over for drinks, a neighborly gesture to break the ice. Emily had agreed, albeit distractedly, and I hadn't thought much of it. Until now. "Am you okay?" I asked, crossing the room to her. Her hazel eyes, usually warm and steady, darted toward the door like a trapped animal's. "I'm fine," she whispered, but her voice cracked, betraying her. I frowned, my stomach twisting. Before I could press further, the doorbell chimed again, insistent. I opened the door to Mark and Lisa, both in their late 30s, all smiles and carrying a bottle of Merlot. Mark was tall, with a salesman's charm and a firm handshake. Lisa was quieter, her auburn hair catching the porch light as she offered a shy wave. "Thanks for having us," Mark said, stepping inside. Emily hovered behind me, her silence deafening. The evening started innocently enough. We sat in the living room, the coffee table cluttered with cheese, crackers, and half-empty wine glasses. Mark regaled us with stories of their move from Chicago, his tech job, and their hunt for a quieter life. Lisa chimed in softly, her laugh light but genuine. I tried to keep the conversation flowing, but Emily was a ghost of herself. She nodded at the right moments, forced a smile, but her hands gripped her wine glass like a lifeline. Every time Mark spoke, her shoulders tensed, and I caught her stealing glances at him. Not curious glances, but ones heavy with something I couldn't name. Fear? Guilt? "Tom, you teach history, right?" Mark asked, leaning forward. "Ever get tired of grading papers?" I chuckled, launching into a story about a student who'd written an essay claiming Cleopatra was a time traveler. Everyone laughed, except Emily. Her gaze was fixed on the floor, her lips pressed into a thin line. I reached for her hand under the table, but she pulled away, her fingers cold. My chest tightened. Something was wrong, and it wasn't just nerves. As the night wore on, the cracks in Emily's facade grew impossible to ignore. When Lisa excused herself to the bathroom, Mark turned to Emily, his tone casual but pointed. "You know, Em, it's been a while since we've caught up." The nickname hit me like a punch. Em? I'd never heard anyone but her sister call her that. Emily's face went ashen, her breath hitching. "Yeah," she mumbled, avoiding his eyes. "A while." I froze, my mind racing. Caught up? What did that mean? My pulse thundered in my ears as I looked between them. Mark's smile was too knowing, too intimate. Emily's silence screamed secrets. "You two know each other?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. Mark raised an eyebrow, glancing at Emily as if waiting for her to answer. She didn't. "We worked together in Chicago," Mark said finally, his tone light but laced with something darker. "Same marketing firm, what, 5 years ago?" 5 years ago. Emily had been at a firm in Chicago before we moved here. She'd never mentioned Mark. Not once. My stomach churned as I pieced together the timeline. 5 years ago was when we'd hit a rough patch. Her late nights at work, my insecurities, the fights that left us sleeping in separate rooms. We'd worked through it, or so I thought. Now doubt gnawed at me like a hungry animal. The rest of the evening was a blur. Lisa returned, oblivious to the tension. We made small talk, but every word felt like a lie. Emily barely spoke, her eyes glassy with unshed tears. When Mark and Lisa finally left, I closed the door and turned to her. "What the hell was that?" I demanded, my voice low but shaking. She stood by the couch, arms wrapped around herself, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "Tom, She stopped, her voice breaking. "Tell me the truth," I said, stepping closer. Did something happen with Mark? Her silence was answer enough. My heart plummeted, a sickening free fall. Emily, please. My voice cracked, desperation seeping through. She sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. It was one night, she whispered, her words barely audible. I was drunk. We were working late. I didn't mean for it to happen. One night. The words sliced through me, sharp and unforgiving. I staggered back, the room spinning. You cheated on me? I asked, though I already knew. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I wanted to tell you, but I couldn't. I thought it was behind us. Then they moved here and I. Her voice broke into sobs, but I felt no urge to comfort her. My world was crumbling, and she was the one holding the wrecking ball. Why didn't you tell me? I shouted, anger surging past the hurt. 7 years, Emily. 7 years, and you kept this from me? She flinched, but I couldn't stop. I trusted you. I thought we were solid. And now I find out from him? From the way he looked at you like he owned a piece of you. My voice cracked, tears burning my eyes. Do you still love him? No, she cried, reaching for me. I stepped back, her touch like fire. I love you, Tom. It was a mistake. I've hated myself for it every day. But her words felt hollow, drowned out by the betrayal ringing in my ears. I thought of every late night, every work trip, every time I dismissed my doubts as paranoia. How much had been a lie? I walked to the window, staring at the dark street where Mark and Lisa's house stood. A mocking reminder of the truth. My chest ached, a raw gaping wound. I need time, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. I can't look at you right now. Emily's sobs followed me as I grabbed my keys and walked out, the night air cold against my skin. Driving aimlessly, I replayed our marriage, searching for signs I'd missed. The pain was suffocating, but beneath it, a flicker of resolve. I didn't know if I could forgive her, if trust could ever be rebuilt. But as the city lights blurred through my tears, one thing was clear. The life I'd known was gone, and whatever came next would be built on the ashes of this betrayal.